Anti-Asian hate crimes have been on the rise lately, and sometimes it is hard to make sense of it all. Where do we even begin? Well, stay right here because UMCP aKDPhi is about to give you a crash course on everything you need to know. This crash course will be hosted by Joni Jiang and Lin Fawn. According to a poll done by Stop AAPI Hate, there have been nearly 3,800 anti-Asian hate crimes reported in the past year of the pandemic. Asian women also made up a disproportionate 68% of the respondents. More than 500 incidents happened in 2021 alone. In just the past 2 months, people of Asian descent have been subjected to violence solely due to their ethnicity. The death of 8 people in the Atlanta shooting is a prime example in which the shooter targeted Asian-owned stores and murdered 6 Asian women. Other than those incidents, numerous other cases of racially targeted violence against Asian people have made headlines. Many others have gone unreported. However, anti-Asian hate crimes are ever so prevalent during this time of the pandemic.
So how did all of this start anyways? Since the rise of the coronavirus pandemic, many people have ignorantly focused their blame and frustration on people of Chinese descent, reasoning that since COVID-19 was first observed in Wuhan, China, all Chinese people are to blame for the transmission of the virus, despite the fact that it's logically impossible for an entire group of people to transmit virus solely due to their ethnicity. So you might be asking, if this is the case, why have non-Chinese people also been attacked in anti-Asian hate crimes? Since China is the largest Asian country in the world, many people's first, or only, encounters with Asian people have been Chinese people, leading to the ignorant assumption that any Asian person they see is Chinese, despite the fact that there are over 45 countries in Asia. Regardless, whether or not someone is actually Chinese, it still will never justify showing racism or harming someone. We also have to remember that despite anti-Asian racism and hate crimes not making the news headlines before 2021, anti-Asian racism is not a new thing and has been around for decades. Xenophobia, or hatred against someone or something one perceives as foreign, has been in the United States for decades. This has led to anti-immigrant and especially anti-Asian rhetoric to spread. Anti-Asian racism doesn't just happen when there's a hate crime. These ideas also manifest into casual statements called microaggressions. You might hear these microaggressions floating around pretty frequently because they're often disguised as someone being naive or ignorant. But just know, it is racist. Statements like, all Asians look the same, or I'm not racist, I have several Asian friends, are ways that people justify racist actions or beliefs, while dodging the acknowledgement that they are actually perpetuating racist beliefs.
So, how do we deal with microaggressions or casual racism? When you do hear it, hold the people who are saying it accountable. Or if you catch yourself saying it, apologize and acknowledge it. When you call out racist acts for yourself and others, you help to stop the continuation of anti-Asian racism. Being correct with the words that you use also helps. For example, using accurate terminology like coronavirus and COVID-19, as well as correcting anyone who mislabels the virus, be it on purpose or accidental. Lastly, be an active bystander. When you see someone experiencing racism or harassment, speak up and intervene. Watching someone get harassed and not doing anything tells racist people that their behavior is okay and that they can continue it without repercussions.
Let's take a deeper dive into all of this. So what do you do specifically to do all of these things we just mentioned? Sometimes, racism can escalate to become harassment or something physical. This can be tricky, especially if you're concerned for your own safety. But what's the most important thing to remember is to be an upstander, not a bystander. You can be an upstander by doing 5 things. First, direct. Directly respond to someone calmly and assertively. 2, delegate. Delegate others to do something by asking for help. You don't have to do it all alone. 3, distract. Distract the perpetrator by saying something that brings their attention away from the person being harmed, such as a random "excuse me" statement. 4, delay. Here, you can check in with the person who is harmed and see if they're okay. 5, document. Remember to record or take pictures of the incident as proof for later. This is one of the most important steps, because with evidence, you can help bring the perpetrator to justice. While this isn't an exhaustive list of everything you can do, and you don't even have to necessarily do it in this order, remember these 5 steps as guidelines on what to do if you're put in this situation. Here are some things you can say to de-escalate a situation that is escalating. There's a lot, but some examples are interrupting someone who's harassing, speaking in an increasingly calm tone, or addressing their behavior specifically, such as, you're holding their arm really hard. And unfortunately, sometimes when things get physical, you may have to defend yourself. There are a lot of things you can do, but here are just a few. But remember, the end goal is to get yourself to safety, not to win. Unfortunately, many times the perpetrator may be too strong to overcome. Use these moves to buy yourself time to exit the situation.
Now you might ask, what can you do to support the Asian community? First, you can support the Asian business. Many of them are struggling and vulnerable due to the pandemic and the increased amounts of attacks against the community. You could also educate yourself by actively reading up on racism in the Asian community and the recent hate crimes. Lastly, you could also offer emotional support to your Asian peers by reaching out to your families and friends in the Asian community and provide support where possible. So, what can you do to protect yourself? First, having pepper sprays or portable tasers is a good way to self-protect. You could also stay vigilant by avoiding being outdoors alone, especially at night. Always inform a friend or family members of your whereabouts.
And finally, take care of yourself. While it may seem overwhelming and too heavy of an issue to solve at once, remember that you can't pour from an empty cup. Take time to recharge by caring for yourself and your small-scale community of friends and family. Make sure to stay physically healthy with exercise or a walk, take breaks from constantly refreshing news feeds, spend time with your family, and do things that make you happy. Your needs may seem trivial in the big picture, but remember, you can't do anything about a large problem if you're burnt out.
Here are some resources and links you can check out to learn more. There are different GoFundMes for this cause, as well as websites to report any racist incidents that you may have encountered. More resources can also be found on the UMCP aKDPhi website. Remember, Asian is not a virus, but racism is. Together, we will combat racism one step at a time. Lastly, special thanks to these content creators for the amazing resources used in this video.